Thank you for having me today. It is such an honor to speak in Buenos Aires. I was following the last words of the last speaker, Vitalik, and one of the interesting things is that many of the lessons of resistance and many of the seed of hope that we can find for this movement is actually in Argentina. If you see the resilience of people who went through the dictatorship, through very, very, very hard economic moments, and through lots of adversity, political instability, and so on, many of the people that maybe are not attending this conference, the taxi driver, the person pouring you a coffee in the morning, might lead you to very interesting conversations on how to solve many of the problems that are not technical that might affect the future of privacy. My talk today is I'm going to share my slides. It's going to be very, 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 very short, and more than a talk. I in my limited capacity, I don't know if you can see it well. Is that okay? It is just a call for unity in this movement. I started my career as a human rights lawyer, and I was, I'm actually one of the first victims of that lack of UX in the tools to protect our privacy. It was 20 years ago that I had the first interactions with encryption when I was working in human rights cases, and it was impossible to use it, and people will simply give up because it was very, very, very hard. But still, in the team of lawyers that we were involved in one of the genocide cases against indigenous people, we tried to keep using it. And through truth commissions and different work in human rights that I was very lucky to meet WikiLeaks in the early days. And what I want to talk about here is how we are in a crucial moment where, after 15 years of loud calls for action, we haven't tackled the challenges that were right in front of us, and on top of that, many as the previous speakers have said, many challenges have unfolded. And the only possible way to overcome those challenges is with unity, not only among the cypherpunk movement, but across different movements, the cypherpunk movement and beyond. WikiLeaks was basically the path opener and the example of that. 15 years ago, many of you were very, very, very young and might not remember, and I sound like a grandma when you hear that, but WikiLeaks exposed the most powerful people all over the world, and the dirtiest secrets through the Cablegate revelations. And that was a moment that should have shaken up our movements, and instead create a unity that could really shift privacy, and not only privacy but freedom at a crucial moment of weakness of those in power who were fighting against all that we stand for as a movement. In fact, it was one of the most divisive moments of the movement, where everybody and many people that could appear in front of us at that time as very courageous and very vocal withdrew. It is usually a very comfortable position to stand against, the dictator in Africa or the dictator in Latin America. But when you see the corruption at the core of the most powerful government in the world that is screaming freedom and freedom, and you see the reaction when this empire is exposed, I think that it left many in the movement with mixed feelings, but also very, very afraid of the consequences of these actions, these very bold and valid actions. The reality of power and politics hit the cypherpunk community in ways that, of course, apart from some individual persecutions, didn't have before. Everybody was, it was like anything related to WikiLeaks was even hard to mention. And it was very, very, very shy and slow. the movement to demand, that the preach of internet freedom and the preach of privacy and civil rights and human rights was upheld by that powerful country and the countries around that were exposed. The reality was that we saw at scale a massive attack at all layers, with financial censorship, with attacks on infrastructure, and with attacks not even just the core infrastructure of an organization and all the prosecutions around of the people around it, but also even in the right of someone anywhere in the world to donate to a foundation, to donate to an institution, to donate to a cause that they believed in. It lasted years. And it's very interesting because you might not know, but the average donation to WikiLeaks was not millions from foundations in the US, as it is of many other organizations advocating for privacy. But it was €20, $20 donation by people like you and me. And that made very clear that we needed a different system. It was the early days of Bitcoin. It was the early days of this movement, and the infrastructure was still not there to resist. I mean, I think that it would have been like more synchrony, it would have been a very interesting test case to show really how to shift power in the circumstances. Unfortunately, it was the lack of unity and a lack of clarity on what this architecture of financial censorship will mean for the future that didn't lead to profound change in the architectures of global solidarity and a more resilient cypherpunk movement. The second moment was, of course, the Snowden revelations, and I was at the front line of this process, and it was very similar. Many organizations didn't want to step up and didn't want to act fast to help someone who was in deep trouble. And it was only because of the cypherpunks. It was only because encryption. It was only also because of the lessons learned by WikiLeaks and the emergence of alliances with human rights activists that it was possible to save Snowden and for him to be in a safe place. But going fast forward, because I don't have much time to go into the details, I would love to tell you more. We are starting to understand, beginning to understand that privacy is a critical infrastructure for our future, but it has geopolitical constraints. And given these geopolitical constraints, and given this, everywhere, every other day is a law that threatens this infrastructure, this architecture, we need to think of different alliances. A quick example, Open Knowledge Foundation is joining the NIM Social Council, among other initiatives that we are joining, but this is the only that is in the cypherpunk space. We are going to collaborate with campaigns and tooling, provide strategic guidance, and run some nodes. We have done it in the past collaborations with Tor. And it is this getting closer and understanding that civil society organizations and activists and groups working on public interest can be good allies, because when you have your list of the people that you will call, and as we saw in the case of WikiLeaks and in the case of Snowden, in some circumstances, nobody is going to pick the call. It is very important to have these alternative spaces and these new alliances to be better and to be more resilient together. The other interesting thing, and it fills me of hope that I see in this space, is the only space that I can see where genuine autonomous philanthropy and emerging alliances are happening. I am tired of the philanthropy that goes through systems, or the old systems of power and money, and that puts a name of a very famous family of billionaire on top of the need of rapid, on top and above, and in a very vertical way, and blocking and constraining the ability that a group of organized individuals have to act. I have seen here, and through the day you will hear in many of the talks, the emergence of a different philanthropy that can lead us to the change that we need. And it is also a new coordination layer. Many of you are working actually in alternative ways to communicate, to organize, to donate, to collaborate, that are still very hard to understand for many people trying to disrupt this possibility, and fastly growing in a decentralized way that might lead to the kind of societal resilience that we need to shift the course that was discussed in the previous talks. And the last is that this community is very, very, very full of hope. So the adopting this hope as a discipline across the cypherpunk movement can lead to better outcomes and can lead to a very powerful yet decentralized space where many people that are in a more vulnerable position can rely on. And so my call is that if the most intelligent and principled people that I know unite, I think that we will see amazing things happening. And I hope to see, more of this, more that cypherpunks are not against each other, but for each other, that they're for collaboration, solidarity, and mutual aid, that they're for open knowledge and sharing these complexities among people who might not be as sophisticated technically, but might have a lot to give from life experiences. Who keep advocating for privacy as a public good and for privacy as something that is accessible to all. For infrastructures that are ours, that belong to communities and that cared by communities, and not to tech empires of platforms. And for the courage to build what others say it is impossible. Everybody said in the past that it was impossible to build something like the architecture that spaces like Ethereum built today. So I live with this. It is a very short talk because I know that you have far more interesting ideas to hear on the possibility of a shared future. Believe me, when I was at the front line and all this powerful collective when dispersed, it was a very sad moment, and I would really, really give anything to turn back time and go back to that moment, because I think that we had a small opening where things could have changed a lot. And by this point, we will be like in a much better future, but it didn't happen. So let's seize this little window that is closing quite rapidly. Let's seize the opportunity, and before it closes, and before like we are locked in this techno-fascist future that was described before, let's unite and let's push against, and let's build our own future, the future that we want to see. Thank you very much, and I don't take more of your time. Enjoy Buenos Aires. Watch the internet if you can, and explore the possibilities of a city that has many, many, many secrets and lessons to overcome the challenges that we are living today.